Morning, guys. Sorry, afternoon, guys. Welcome. Thanks for being here on time. This is our second day meeting during this week. So we're gonna actually have an assignment that I want you guys to post for today. It's gonna be assignment day 2 post. I haven't posted it yet, that's why it looks great. I'll post it sometime after the video is over, alright? The reason why I'm waiting to post is because I've been getting submissions but with no files or anything attached. So I notice a lot of people jump straight to the assignment form and then they go ahead and fill out their names, but they don't submit the file. Actually, it's more from the first form. It's because this one I actually require the file, but either way, I'm still gonna give it some time before I post, just so you don't go ahead and send me an empty file. Once again, assignments will be due whenever you can get it done. I just want you to try and get them done when you can. That's my understanding for you because of all these online classes. That's my gift to you. No due date, but we follow and just watch the videos and do the work and submit when you can. Right? I prefer having you guys do the work and complete it rather than have to worry about deadlines and when I'm gonna be checking them. Alright? These files aren't going anywhere. These forms are going to still be here even after the end of this week. Just make sure you go and submit the assignments according to the days, right? So if for video day 2, which we're gonna do a small program today, I want you to do the assignment and submit it under the form for day 2, alright? Instructions are given on the assignment post. So after watching the video, just to remind yourself what we're doing, you can go ahead and read this. Basically, it's a recreation type kind of assignment, and all the assignments going forward will be the same. It's more you watch the video, it's kind of like a how-to video, and then you basically follow the same thing I'm doing and you submit the assignment pretty much exactly how I do it in the videos. For today, we're going to do a program that we've done already. We're going to go and create one that calculates the area of a circle. We've done this in class, we've done this in the lab. So we're doing something that's familiar. The only difference is we're doing it in the online environment. So it should be familiar in terms of work. And the only thing that's different is that I'm live streaming and you're submitting it through the Google form. So some of you might have video issues, especially when it comes to loading. You might jump straight to where we are at right now and you might have missed the little intro. So I advise you guys to go ahead and rewatch the video, at least just the intro, just to bring you guys back up to speed, so that you guys aren't lost during the video or afterwards when you have to do the assignment. So we'll jump right into the programming. We'll print a message to the user that says this program calculates the area of a circle. I want to remind you guys that when we type in the print keyword, it follows with a text that is covered by double quotes, and anytime information is found in the double quotes, this is what's going to be shown on the program when it's running. Right hand side shows the program being run, left hand side shows the code that we're writing. We go ahead and tell the user that this requires the radius. All messages are based on the programmer's discretion. You decide how much information you want to tell the users who's going to run the program. And this time I decided to tell them that we need the radius for this program. Yes, we did, Cameron. Sorry. not camera, whoever CamCam is, we already did. And again, its whole point of covering it over is just to give you something you are familiar with, but in a different environment. So we go ahead and ask the person to please enter the radius now. When we want to ask the user to enter a value, we need to create something to store the value in. We are using computers. Computers have memory, but they can't force a person to enter a value and then magically store that value in space, right? So you need to create what we call a variable. We create variables based on names. You put a name after the input command, and that's the name of the variable going forward. So anytime you have an input, the program will pause indefinitely for the user to enter a value. When the person enters a value, that value is going to get stored in the variable that you created. Variables can have different names, but it's always best to name them based on what you're doing. Since I'm going to require the radius to calculate the area of a circle, I'm gonna call the variable radius. Right? There's no rules in terms of naming a variable like based on what the meaning of the word means. For example, you could call it number 1. You could have called it square, even though we're not doing anything with squares, but it's just a name to label our container, right? There are rules when it comes to naming variables, but in terms of physically naming them. For example, you can't name a variable after a command that already exists. You can't name the variable input because input is already reserved by the program. You can't name a variable print because of the same issue. But you can name it with the case sensitive letters if it doesn't exist. For example, the word input with a capital I but lowercase nput is acceptable because the program sees input with all caps as the keyword, not input with only one uppercase I. So that's just a brief description when it comes to naming variables. I'll go back to calling it radius again because it's related to what we're doing, which is calculate the area of a circle. So now we continue and we go ahead and do something different when it comes to variables, and we're gonna go ahead and create another variable, but this variable does not need the user to enter a value. This variable is set. We're going to set it by typing out the equal sign, and we're going to set this value, this variable, to the value of 3.14. So there's two ways to get variables, right? One, you create one by a label, name it, and you put it behind an input, and that's the user will provide the value for that radius. What is that value? We will not know until the program is running and the user enters the value. The second way to set a variable to a value is to do it as the programmer. As a creator of this program, we can create a variable. Again, we can give it any name we want, but we try and name it relative to what we're doing. So pi is a mathematical value used to calculate areas of circles. I can call it pi with pi, which is what it should be called in math standards. Or I could even call it pi by misspelling it. However, since pi is not a keyword, we can just call it pi, which is a dessert. Alright? Now that we have the value of pi set, we can always call on that value whenever we want. And in this case, on line number 9, we're going to combine both text that will be displayed on the program in the right hand side, and also we're going to combine a calculation that's going to be done alongside of the text. So we're going to say the area is, put a colon and a space, and I'll put a semicolon. Semicolon is important for your print statements because on the right hand side of semicolons is when you actually calculate the values. Notice within the double quotes, these will be stated. So whatever was in the double quotes is stated out exactly as shown. Now, the right hand side will not include any double quotes, therefore the values will actually get calculated rather than just printed out as you see here. So we referenced our variable pi. Again, it's very important to reference exactly as you typed it out. If I had called it pi with a capital P and I run this, it's gonna tell me an error. Well, not an error in this case, it just tells me it's 0 when pi is not 0, right? Pi is 3.14. Pi with a lowercase letter does not exist, so it just gives you a 0. If I go ahead now and type in capital, put in a value, I get back 3.14 because now I'm referencing the name of pi properly. All programs are case sensitive, so it matters when you're using capitals or not. We use the sign to represent multiplication, which is the star or the asterisk. Now we reference the value radius times radius because the value or the formula for the area of a circle is pi r squared, right? Yep. Therefore, r squared is just another way to say radius times radius, and pi times radius is what you see here. Now, if I go ahead and I put a capital R, then it's gonna basically resolve to 0 because this R is not this R, and then anything times 0 will always be 0. So run it now again with the correct spelling for radius. We put 5 and now we get 78.5 because 5 times 5 times 3.14 gives us 78.4. So I hope you guys understood what we're doing so far. It's basically a simple program to calculate the area of a circle. I talked about why we called certain variables, how we name them. We're talking about what the input command does, what the print command does, and then why we have a semicolon here to separate text that's going to be printed to the user and a value that's going to be calculated and not printed. Notice it says 78.5 and not pi times radius, right? We're just referencing the values that are contained with these variables. And of course, radius changes the entire answer because we don't know what might be the radius tomorrow when the user decides to enter 92. It's going to be a different value because in this case, radius is a mystery until the user enters the value, right? So if I put 12, alright, so this is the first part of what we will be doing for the rest of the other classes. We go ahead, go to Word. I want you to open a blank document. I want you to take the code and paste it right into the Word file. And now we move on to flowcharts. Basically, we are going to create a flowchart that represents this program right here. I'm gonna remove the spaces just so I have more space on my flowchart. Microsoft Word contains all shapes needed to create a flowchart. You click on the Insert tab, click on Shapes, and down here where it says Flowcharts are all the necessary shapes you need. We've only covered 4 shapes, but that's all we're gonna need for the next 2 weeks. We begin our flowchart with our terminator, the little circular looking shape here. You right click on the shape after you select it, add text, and you type in start. Our code has 6 lines, so we're gonna need at least 6 shapes other than start and end. Let me show you guys a quick trick here. If you have a shape that you just want to copy and not go insert and select it from this menu, you can right click on a shape, hold down right click and drag the shape where you want to copy it to. Let go of the right click and you can click copy here. The reason why I did that is not because we have two starts, but the shape for start and end is the same. Right? So now we already have our start and end. We continue on and build our flowchart. We'll use the rhombus or this slanted looking rectangle here. Right click, select add text, and we'll type out the different lines for our program. When the line is very long, like for this sentence, this program calculates, you can always abbreviate, alright? Dot. Because I have access to your pseudocode, I can follow along when I read the flowchart. This programs, I'll just look for this program, like, okay, that's the line you're representing for me. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 print and input statements. So I'm gonna copy this 5 times. All right, right click, drag the shape, copy here, right click, drag the shape, copy here, right click, drag the shape, copy here, right click, drag the shape, copy here. Now, last statement that we're missing is when we set pi equals 3.14. Pi equals 3.14 is not an input because the user isn't entering anything. It's not an output either because we're not printing out anything to the screen. So we call this a process. It's something that happens, that we say this is going to happen, and the computer is going to process pi equals 3.14. And processes are denoted by a square or a rectangle. So I'm gonna put it here, give it some space. So our flowchart is almost complete. We need to go ahead and change the text, right, for each shape to represent each line. This time we say this requires ... No need to type out everything. I understand once you have the pseudocode. And then I'm gonna go like this in a little zigzag pattern. So I planned ahead and I'm gonna be using like a zigzag pattern. So it's gonna go start this program, this requires, and then down here to please enter . I'm not gonna put everything. I have the pseudocode so I can refer to that to find out the whole sentence. The last one here is an input, and I'll put the word radius. If you're not on a computer, guys, I told you you could write this out on a folder sheet and then take a picture of the folder sheet for me and then use the same form and upload the file. And in this case, the file will be the picture, okay, not a Microsoft Word file, but click on add file and look for the picture. Look for the picture of your assignment and send that to me. Try and take a clear picture though, alright, though, because I can't check it if I can't read it, right? So back to the work. And I also showed you guys how to use Google Docs in the last video. So if you could handle using the Google Docs, take a look at video 1. Make sure you see how to get that done. So I'm gonna finish this flowchart, and that's pretty much your assignment for today. Do this flowchart, do the program, test it on Replit. The address is repl.it/languages/qbasic. Give it a test run there and just make sure it works correctly. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish this flowchart for you guys. Print area is ... right? Don't need to type out everything. I have the pseudocode here. I'm gonna make comparisons between the chart and the pseudocode. So the last things that is missing from this entire flowchart are the arrows. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm gonna click on any one of these arrows and I'm gonna draw the first arrow. And then the same trick that we did earlier, right click on the arrow, drag it, let go, copy here. I'm pretty much gonna keep using this trick because it takes a lot of time to always be going back into the insert shapes, arrow, insert shape, arrows. It's just too much time. So I'm gonna copy by right clicking the shape, letting go the right click, select copy here. I'm gonna turn this one around, and then I'm gonna copy it again and again and again until our flowchart makes sense. And I'll copy this one since it's already pointing that way. Alright, so if you don't have any more questions, that's pretty much the assignment for today. For tomorrow's assignment, we're going to do a program that covers if-else structures, the one where we have a diamond, the one where we have conditions that needs to be met. The program is going to be a lot longer, I guess to call it, than this one here. This one is only about 6 lines. The next one will be maybe 20-25 lines, and so that means it's gonna have a lot more shapes. But I have a little trick that we're gonna do to minimize the amount of shapes, so try not to overwhelm you guys with a lot of shapes to put in your flowcharts. Alright, for those of you joining us late, just make sure you go ahead and rewatch the video for me. It takes about 5 minutes after the video stream to be permanently stored on YouTube, so use the same link to open the video and give it a watch from the beginning, just so you could get all the info. Alright, tomorrow's video, again, be prepared for that one. Have your Replit open if you're on a PC. Have your Word file open. Get ready to take notes if you need the notes. Right? Easy stuff for today. Can't throw you guys on the deep end of the pool, right? Have to teach you how to swim first. Alright, make sure you go ahead, go to the assignment and upload this Word file. Make sure you save this Word file here. Go ahead and save it. I'm not gonna save it. I already have like 3 copies of the same Word file at this point. What I will do for you guys is upload the form for you now. So I'm gonna set it to assign. So now you could upload it in the form on the stream. So it's right here. Send me your upload. I'll be checking who turned in, who hasn't turned in. No due date as usual. Just try and get the work done, guys. I understand lots of work to do, so take your time and just finish it. Alright, I'll end the video, but you could still ask questions in the chat. I'll still be here, still be able to answer questions. Alright guys, let's see. Alright, 20 minutes, perfect time. See you guys tomorrow.